All right, welcome everybody. Boroughs and Burbs, episode 139. I want to thank my co-host Roberto Cabrera. Say hello from New York.
Hello, sir. How are you? Good to see you. I can't believe we're at 139. It's amazing.
I know. Today we're doing NevelHaus, and I want to introduce my co-hosts, my guests, Josh Gelb of JSR Development, Drew Stuart from INC Architecture. Now, let me see if I can get over here. Let's see. NevelHaus. There we go. NevelHaus is the subject of today's show. We're going to talk to JSR Developments, Josh Gelb. He's the developer behind NevelHaus. We're going to talk to Drew Stuart. He's the architect behind NevelHaus. And we're going to find out a little bit more about his other projects and what inspired NevelHaus. A little confusing because he builds great big structures, hotels, skyscrapers, and NevelHaus is not that. We're going to get a chance to talk to Miriam Hill. They designed the interior of NevelHaus, so we're going to find out what inspired their thinking behind it. Here's their website, Miriam Hill. And before I move off of it, I want to congratulate Miriam Hill for being featured this month with Architectural Digest Pro. They took your Design on a Dime 2024 and featured it this month. And I think that's pretty cool. So congratulations on that. So
thank
welcome
you.
Everybody. Episode 139.
Thanks, John.
Happy to be here.
Josh, let's start with you.
Let's do it.
Is NevelHaus your brainchild? Are you responsible for the creation of? Where did this idea come about?
I won't take all the credit. I have a partner. I have several partners. I have partner Pele Hamburger, who's not with us today, and Drew Stewart, and his partners are INC. I think the idea, Drew and I met while working on the One Hotel in Brooklyn Bridge Park. In my prior life, I was a development manager for Toll Brothers City Living. And Drew and I worked together on a number of projects. And I think the idea for NevelHaus started probably back in 2018 I think the concept was to come up with something that a modern high design cabin that could be easily replicated and built quickly and efficiently. But was different from what was being built up in the Catskills and the Hudson Valley at the time. I think a lot of the product at that time was like this modern farmhouses, or you were buying renovated houses and buying old houses and renovating them, and we wanted to come up with something new that appealed to a different buyer. And so Drew and I talked to Drew about it, and for some reason he listened to me and said that was cool. And he sketched that's kind of where this came from. And he sketched out a few kind of ideas, and we settled on this barn style home. And that was the genesis.
So not a cabin, but a barn, more like. That's the nuance. I'm just trying to understand exactly, because there are some.
You imagine a cabin and a barn had a baby. This is what they created.
The shape of a barn, but flipped on its head. It's not a barn, and we've actually been told by cabin porn and Dwell that it doesn't even qualify as a cabin. So I'll let Drew kind of speak more to the design, because that's his department. But all
right, let's just dive right into the design. I'll put it up on the screen. Walk us through the design features that we should be noticing.
Sure. And just to talk a little bit for a second, it's not all me. We have a very talented team of 50 people out here, and a number of them worked on this project. So I'm just one very small component in the design of this project. Look, we love Josh. He's been a longtime collaborator of our studio. And kind of what makes us different is we are both architects and interior designers. That's kind of what we're known for. And the name is the mission, right? Incorporated architecture and design. And half the team is architects, half the team is interior designers. And so really this is about this push and pull that we're always engaged in of both understanding the interior of the building, simultaneous to understanding the exterior of the building, so that, you know, like one of our jokes is from curtains to curtain walls, that we're always thinking about how do you furnish a room? How do the window shades sit in a window pocket? And what's happening, you know, in between the, you know, outside and inside. And you can see we do have, you know, I think that building right there, this house is one of the ones that started our discussion with Josh. This is a house by a multi-repeat client that we designed. It's actually an existing home that we took back to the framing and foundation to build this. And this is a passive house. And I think a lot of the principles that were informing that design did start informing what we were thinking about in terms of NevelHaus. This is actually my business partner's home in Columbia County. And so we've been exploring this idea of shed-like structures, cow barns, Pennsylvania Dutch barns, and all those ideas were sort of culminating around what became a building technology. So we have been using this product called SIPS, which is a structurally insulated paneling system, which means that the structure is part of the wall panels. It's not like balloon framing or stick framing. And interestingly, what that did was it created a module where we needed a certain amount of solid wall, and then you were essentially only allowed a 36-inch wide opening. And the really cool aspect that came from that, as we've sort of rolled this out, you know, how many have we built now, Josh? Are we at 18, 19?
Yeah, something like that.
And the great thing about this plan is that because the rough openings for a window and door are the same, when a buyer comes to us and says, okay, well, I want a deck off of this side, or I want my entry to be over here, all those modules that have been established, we can easily swap out a door for a window. So that's one of the really nice customizations that's come out of this, this design. And then I would say that, you know, obviously we were looking at a lot of Scandinavian influences. And then, you know, sticking with really humble materials like corrugated metal siding, much like you would encounter in upstate buildings that are sort of utilitarian, and not trying to do anything over the top or ostentatious. So
What did you call the wall insulation? Is that something that's thicker? Is it something that's engineered in a certain way? What was that called?
yeah, I mean, it's essentially, if I were to boil it down for you, it's as dumb as a layer of sheetrock, or sorry, a layer of plywood, a giant dense layer of rigid insulation, and another layer of plywood. And in that panel, there is a structural rating. And so it is a structurally insulated panel, or a SIP. And in its integrity, it creates its own structure. So it's not like stick framing or balloon framing in the sense that there's other members. It's all sort of self-structuralized, if you will. And that leads to a very energy efficient building in the end.
On the development side, it allows us to put the building up much more quickly than having to frame it, skin it, insulate it. It just goes up, so you can have a fully weathered in home in a few weeks.
Do any of these homes have foundations, like
They all have full foundations, yeah.
subterranean?
Yeah.
What was interesting for us when we looked at this house for Hillary's needs, and she has a big family and entertains a lot, that big foundation was what stretched this home from being a 3-bedroom house to what we've created more like a 6-bedroom house. And largely that's because of this foundation. We put in a large bunk room in that basement, and it sleeps 6 people in it, so that the house was really able to stretch for different needs. And I think that's one of the exciting things about this home, is that it is strangely flexible, even though it's not flexible. So it has a way of growing to the needs of the people there. And I think it's really exciting to see the different ways it's gotten used in those 18 iterations, because they really are all very unique.
Yeah, it is a funny way to put it, because even though there is this sort of rigor to its exterior, and a tightness to the design, which I think is probably one of the things we're known for, it does have a flexibility that's kind of inherent in both its modules and the fact that because so many of these houses are in hilly, mountainous areas, we do take advantage of the terrain by having walkout basements. And so we get a lot of extra square footage out of that. So most of the builds have taken advantage of a walkout.
we talk about location. You guys talk about on your website about locations, but it seems as if you guys have acquired land for which, what are you selling it? Selling a parcel of land and then you're putting a house on there, or people have their own parcel? I was a little confused by what you're doing there.
So at Neville Stone Ridge, which is where Hillary purchased her home, that we acquired the site, subdivided it, it's 8 lots. And we don't start the homes until we've secured a buyer, and that allows the buyers to select what options they'd like, design the homes. In Hillary's instance, she totally customized the entire interior of the home. I mean, it's a incredibly unique home that we've not done before. And we find that there's a lot of buyers out there who want to do that. They want to have a custom home, but they don't want to go out and hire the architect, hire the engineers, find the GC. So we're a one-stop shop for that, right? You can get a custom home, but within, some sort of confine.
So in let's just say the last iteration where you had a big plot of land that you subdivided, how big are those lots?
Those lots range from just they're on the small side, they're 2.5 acres up to 9 acres. So there's some good variation there.
That's great, because you do talk about tranquility, separation, yet in some ways creating a community of sorts. Exactly.
We wanted to create a community. I think our buyer said they're coming up out of the city or the suburbs surrounding the city, and they're looking for more space, but they're not looking to be off in the wilderness. So what we say is seclusion without isolation. So you don't see your neighbor, but you know they're out there, and you can.
I found it interesting that you had talked about it. It's like you talk about the Catskills and Hudson Valley, which is more or less in close proximity to Manhattan and Brooklyn.
Yes.
You specified Brooklyn. Like, why did you bring that in?
Did we say that? Did we?
Yes, it says it.
It says it. It's in the copy. Well, I think early on, a lot of our buyers were coming up out of Brooklyn. I think exclusively.
You know what? Because Josh didn't know all the cool kids are in New Jersey.
Didn't know all the cool kids
He lives in Brooklyn.
Jersey.
Really,
I live in Brooklyn. I was building something for myself. I was saying, if I was going to have a house upstate, what would it be? And so that's a bit selfish, but it turns out a lot of other people wanted what I wanted, so I guess it worked out.
But it's really great. People would normally say New York, but there is a specificity to that. I mean, it literally says with its incredible nature, beauty, and serene surroundings, not to mention proximity to Manhattan and Brooklyn.
Everyone's in Brooklyn now. No one's in New York.
I think you're trying to show that upstate is becoming the New Hamptons, and the cool people are going there. What more could you say? But it's become a cool area.
I think a lot of people got priced out of the Hamptons, and maybe the busyness. Like, I had a beach home for many, many years, and it became overwhelming for me, the amount of people there and trying to get the restaurant reservations. And it just was loud, and it wasn't ultimately like relaxing for us. When Hillary was looking for a second home, my husband and I have always loved Hudson. We took them up to Hudson, stayed at the Maker Hotel, and that's it. They were in love. And then they started to look for land in the area. And it's overwhelming to build without a builder, without an architect, even though we're in the business and we do it all the time. Being away from that area, dealing with wells, dealing with running electrical, there was a lot more to it. And having a partner in it was really appealing to Hillary.
Yeah. Working with Josh and his team really made the process a lot more streamlined. I mean, we are a design firm, so I think Josh would probably say the same thing about working with us. We gave him a tremendous amount of plans, his team a tremendous amount of plans, because we decided we did want to reconfigure many things for our needs. And for us, being an interior design firm, we were able to give him all those options right on paper, and like, this is what I want to do. I want to do a pocket door here and here. And he's like, okay, great, let's do it.
So I think, and the basements are really fully customizable.
Yes.
So we in-house, our team drew the basement how we wanted it. We created a laundry room, a yoga / workout room, another family room, a large bathroom, and that bunk room. So we were able to draw that out for him too, and pass that along. But they were great partners. I think it was really a pleasure working in community with a great architect, a great developer, great interior designer, a great builder. It really was as streamlined and easy a process as could be building a home not in your backyard.
I've
Well,
got a bunch of questions. We got to back up here a minute. So, first of all, we're talking about this like it was a cabin in the woods, but it occurs to me that you could sell this in the Hamptons, you could sell this in the mountains, you could sell this anywhere. Is that right, Josh?
that is right, and we've licensed, while Drew and I can't be everywhere to build them, we license the design. So they've been built in far-flung places. We sell the design, we sell the plans, and people build them for themselves.
And who is buying it now? Who's been the first tranche of buyers? Is this a second home? And is it a millennial? Is it an empty nester?
Well, I think
What's the profile?
You know, the location that we've been building them in the Hudson Valley and Catskills, their lens and the design lends itself to being a second home. So almost exclusively, they're all second homes. Our buyers are coming, as I said, they're coming out of the city in Brooklyn and New Jersey. And they tend to be younger. They're young.
Like Hillary.
Like Hillary.
Exactly,
I would
like
say
me.
30s to 50s. You know, they're not retirees and they're not kids, but everyone in between.
And what niche is this filling that was not? Because you talked a little bit about the business plan up front, and you said this niche is not being filled. And I think you used the word high design modular concept. And so talk to me about what.
Well, yeah. So I think Miriam touched upon it as well. You know, people were getting not only priced out of the Hamptons, but it's become such a scene that people, even if a lot of our buyers, especially where we're at the price point we're selling now, they can't afford the Hamptons, but they don't want to be in that scene. It's not for everybody. And I think for a long time, people forgot that New York has this massive backyard, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours away in the Hudson Valley. So we wanted to help be part of that renaissance. And so when we first looked at the landscape, there were people who were buying old farm homes from the 1800s and pouring a ton of money and renovating them. And that's, for a certain buyer, that's great. There were other buyers who didn't want to do a renovation and they wanted to buy turnkey. And so, but if you were looking at turnkey homes up there, there were a lot of the builders building modern farmhouses, which is for some people, but not for everyone. And so we wanted to create a turnkey modern home, and that didn't exist.
So the advantages are
that, you had to call up Drew Stuart, pay him $500,000 to design a house, then find some builder that's 3 hours away from you and try to manage that project from your Brooklyn condo. So we tried to bridge that gap.
So I've heard
our fees aren't $500,000, but I have to set the
it's a better
record straight.
design. I've heard it's a better design.
Expensive.
It's a better design and it's a better materials. I've heard about that. I do want to find out, is it less expensive and is it faster than building this on my own?
If you asked me this 3 years ago, I would have said absolutely yes, it's less expensive and faster. Prices have gone crazy in the last few years. It's still less expensive than if you were to do it on your own, right? As I said, like if you were gonna on your own, you'd have to hire the architect, hire your structural engineer, hire your MEP engineer, hire your civil engineer, hire your landscape designer, hire Miriam and Hillary to do your interior design, find a builder, find your land. So just the process, you know, get the land approved for development, getting the septic approved, which is a process that, you know, that has to be approved by the Board of Health. So we're selling turnkey lots that are already approved. Design is already approved. Design's already approved. So all you have to do is come to us, pick your lot, pick your design, and we can put up a house. At this point, we can do it in about 8 to 10 months. If you're not doing what Hillary did.
Can we take a practical example of someone just kind of like you're talking about? So someone who's been looking in the Hamptons, they've got $1.5 million to spend.
Like the
They
perfect
really can't find anything they want in the Hamptons at all. So they come to you and say, listen, I have a budget, $1.5 million.
Yeah.
What can I do? What can I?
So exactly. So they come to us, $1.5 million budget. We show them the available lots, right? And you want each lot has its own characteristics and they're priced differently according to those. And we say, here are the 3 home options. And so there's 3 sizes. And on top of the 3 sizes, you can add a walkout basement, you can add a studio garage, you can customize some of the interior designs, or you can go all out like Hillary did. But we've got prepackaged options for you. If that's not what you want to do.
So give me an example of something that I could get though for $1.5 million. Like, do you have something on your website that we could see that's kind of more like?
Yeah, if you want to go to NevelStoneRidge.com, it's a different website.
And this would be on how much of a, like, how does a property value vary from 2 acres to 4 acres or something, like ballpark?
If you go to the availability tab. Pick lot, go to lot 1.
$1,350,000.
$1,350,000, 3.5 acres. That's a 60-foot. That's our largest home on there without the walkout basement. It comes with a carport, and you're ready to go.
That's finished. House, everything.
House, everything. It's,
Everything.
That's pretty good. 3 some acres for $1.5 million. $1.3 million.
$1,300,000. Add the studio garage. You're in $1.5 million, and then you've got a 4-bedroom, with a guest suite, brand new ink designed home.
That's for like, that's for a basic house. Now, if I want to customize it to a certain level, how quickly does that price start escalating?
It depends, and that depends on what you choose, right? With Hillary's, we kind of worked out a situation where, because which was great to work with her, right? Sometimes we work with buyers who want to do what Hillary did, but don't have that background, right? And that becomes far more tedious and slower. With Hillary, she was able to, quickly turn around exactly what she wanted in a way that we could comprehend it, price it, and give it back to her. And so that was wonderful.
I mean, that's how our firm, that's how we really worked together, was we would give you it already designed in plan. So you were quickly able to get pricing for me, to do all the additions and the changes. And we customized all the electrical, all the tiles, all the lighting, added a ton of lighting, all the island, we added space to it. We added a bar, we added a reach-in pantry, like, that was beautiful with glass doors. Like, there was a lot of additions that we put in.
But no actual additions.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that. Like,
Not in space, but in detail.
Right. I think that's what's so interesting about this design is you can get much more personalized with the detailing, but the space stays the same. And I think that's really interesting and a great testament to how wonderful the basic design is from Drew and his team.
Yeah, but to answer your question, we have a menu of options, right? So you can add the pool, you can add the car charger, you can add the wet bar, right? And those are, already designed by Inc. We have pricing for them ready to go. And so it's just kind of, you come in, you pick it's like building a car at the dealership, right? You come in, you say, I want, the Porsche 911, and then you ask, you check all the boxes, right? So, and then the price goes up from there.
Yeah, it does. It's like, oh, this car's 80,000, and then you customize it. It's like, wow, it's 120,000. It's like...
Exactly.
And just to like dive into one of those details, like Hillary sent through their, lighting plan, and then we took the lighting plan to one of our lighting vendors to help, like make sure that we were going to have the right amount of lumens on the floor and make sure we were choosing the right fixtures. So I mean, there's a due diligence that happens as well with all these revisions that we're sort of tracking along the way as well.
But we are a slightly older demographic where light is more important than a younger demographic where they can still see in partial light. So light was important to Hillary's husband in a way that might not have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So, that was a quirky little piece of that house, which, did change it a little bit. I think one of the things also that was important to Hillary's family was TV watching together. And that's not something that was a priority in the original design. That wasn't really, I think, imagined on the first floor the same way Hillary imagined it happening on her first floor. So one of the things that we did was flip the design around and use that flat wall for a TV, whereas it's shown online as a dining room with a buffet. So we made small little tweaks that for us worked perfectly for the way we imagined using the house. And big family living where, the adults could be upstairs watching and all the kids could be downstairs watching. And, we're a very multi-generational family life. So that was important too, to imagine all the different ways you could live in the home generationally. And then finding quiet spots too. And I think that was something, there's some nooks in this house, which even though it's a modern house, Drew and his team still found ways to create these gorgeous little nooks for people.
Little cozy moments.
Yeah, to find a spot. In Hillary's house, there's an area where the husbands play backgammon, and it's literally solely for backgammon. It's 2 chairs with a backgammon table, and that's their pastime up there. And there's room for that in this house. Even though it's open, it still has these great little moments of solitude and connection. And that was really meaningful for us because we come from older homes that have that. And that's why that kind of architecture wasn't appealing to Hillary. She already lives in a 1930s home that she renovated. So for her, something more modern was exciting. And I think that's what NevelHaus gave you, is that modern backdrop. And then we, of course, begun collecting incredible Hudson Valley antiques to fill it with, which was so fun.
It seems to me that, we've been talking about this as a fun second home, but it occurs to me that we're moving into, if I look at the big picture, we're short a few million homes in America right now. Everybody knows it. Every market is short housing. And what you've come up with here is high design, efficiently made, faster. And it seems to me that if you made them at scale, we could even wring some more cost out of this. Is this possibly the next Levittown? Right? I mean, I hate to say Levittown, but Levittown, to be fair, was innovative in its day, and everybody ended up customizing the basic concept, over time anyway. You've given people an opportunity to customize the basic concept, and this is could be maybe a more efficient way to approach large-scale development.
He came from Toll Brothers, right?
Yeah, and I grew up not far from Levittown, so that was an inspiration in some sense and a thought, right? That if we could make it work upstate, and we could get a lot of excitement behind it, that maybe possibly that would be one direction to take it. Drew and I have had a lot of discussion about that. We've had some discussion with other investors about that kind of thing, and potentially that's where this goes, but we'll see.
John, just so you hear, I think as anyone from, if you follow New York State politics, there needs to be a legislative change to allow for accessory dwelling units. We've gone as far as working through how we would, turn a NevelHaus product into an ADR, which could substantially reduce the housing, challenges, by allowing every house to have a second home for extra rental income, or, elderly parents, or young, kids getting out of college and not having a place to go. I think there's a lot of solutions, but there's not much that at this point developers and architects can do. It's got to be a legislative change within New York State. California's had made great headway with their ADR program, but we can't seem to get anything passed.
Can we sell these in California? Can we sell these in other states that are? We just did a show on accessory dwelling units in Atlanta, in Georgia, and down south. I mean, they're a little bit further along in their legislation. Can we
Right.
sell these down south? Because they talked about modular homes and the ability to ship these cross country adds cost to it and makes it less efficient. So talk to me about where are they made and how far can we sell them?
Well, right now we've actually started to move away from SIP for the last few homes because of availability and cost reasons that were making it infeasible. We were losing the efficiency that we had once gotten from them. But if things were to change and the price and the availability of those SIPs were to improve, we could find a way to package these and flatbed them and ship them down south, or work with SIP manufacturers who are down south already to deliver them locally. That's something that for sure could be done.
How can I just ask you about the design, Drew, just in regards to when your original concept, what have you learned? What's changed? How did it evolve? And what were your challenges to get to where you are now in this?
I mean, it's interesting because, I think one of the best things about NevelHaus as an overall pitch is that now that we've, built 18 of these, it's like, I don't think anyone would ever want to buy the first car in a production line. And, it's funny because every custom home that gets built is essentially the first car in a production line. So, we are on its 18th, refinement, if you will. We've learned about what wood floors go in easily, without some of the challenges of other wood floors. There's just sort of a refinement of the specifications. I don't know, Josh, what would you say?
Yeah, I think we're always refining. I think there was some on the first one. The first one was such a jewel, really. And there were some design elements in that one that, if we're gonna do this at scale, are harder to pull off. And so I think,
And as one silly example, while you have this up, sorry to interrupt, but this light fixture is made from wood that was felled on site.
yeah.
Milled and then installed, and then it was amazing. But when we sort of costed it out, we realized we'd spent probably like $16,000 having this thing made. So probably not the most, it was poetic, but maybe not the most cost efficient thing to do. So learning things like that is certainly one aspect of it.
And then you can see in this layout that as we were talking, there's so many amazing windows, which is beautiful. But if TV watching is an element for you, then you have to solve for that. So here, this is about the fire and about community in this image. It's not as much about, TV watching or movie watching. So when we flipped it in our version, we felt like that was an improvement for one way of living.
Funny because,
but it was easy to do because, as you said, the doors could move so easily.
Yeah, we didn't prioritize TV watching. The idea was to bring the outdoors in and for this to kind of just sit in nature. And actually, the individual who purchased this home didn't want any TVs, and they had us go through and put base plates on all the coax and
so looking at all these windows, it just makes me think of heating in the wintertime and how good those windows are and how high the ceilings are and the heat rises. Like, what's the heating system here?
It's a VRF system, which is
above my pay grade. No idea what that means.
But it's an all electric. It's a advanced version of a mini split. Like a basic mini split where you have the outdoor unit and a wall mount unit. So everything's hidden. It's a ducted mini split system with VRF technology that makes it hyper efficient. And
it literally almost gets too hot in the winter. Like it upstairs, like it's so perfect. It's almost too perfect.
Like it is never cold in the winter.
No.
And it is never hot in the hot days.
I
Like
was gonna
last,
say, and how have your energy bills been, Hillary? I'm curious because we don't get that kind of feedback too long.
I don't know. I got to ask Brian about that.
Well, I would imagine they're not bad because
Yeah.
No, very
of the-
stable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like you have to turn it up or turn it down a lot. Like it's very stable temperature.
And the window, I mean, I just want to give a bravo to the windows in this house. It's the most it's the most interesting combination of window sizes and placements, and the window sills are so deep that you actually were right when you were talking about putting window treatment in there. There's so much space, and it really brings the outdoors in. Like the rooms upstairs feel the top rooms, the top two bedrooms.
You see in
feel
this picture right here how the window goes to the floor? And that's because the outside window, that's the second one up, but it means that the windows inside go right to the floor, and it's really like a tree house.
Like it's so magical to be in there. And it's like you don't want to really stay in your bedroom in this house, but you want to be outside. But the bedrooms feel so like you're outside, even when you're inside. And they're not, like, to be honest, they're not huge. And we don't believe in big bedrooms because that's not where most people are spending their days, but they're really, they're quite roomy in the same way. They're not huge, but they have enough space. And we were able to put like chairs in each of them or a bench. And they're really just, I'm going off on the bedrooms, but the windows again are magical. Like they really, to me, are the house. And if I kind of see a skyscraper inspiration in them. I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but when I look at the pattern work on a skyscraper, that's kind of what I see when I'm sitting at our pool now and looking up at the 3 levels of, or the, what is it, 40 feet of wall. But yet it feels organic at the same time. I don't know how that happened, but.
Yeah, pictures don't quite capture the sort of volume of space.
Do you want to try to flip to our pictures? I wonder if they would.
That beam that you just showed, is that wood, metal? What is that?
I only have one picture from Hillary.
Each
So,
photo,
Miriam sent some also.
okay.
Like the frame of the house is wood.
Yeah, it's all wood framing, no steel.
there is some steel.
Very little. We're proud of how little steel.
It really does feel like when you're in it, and I think this was a great lesson to us, is volume of height matters in how you experience space. So it feels so large when you're in it, but it really just, it fits all the furniture exactly the way you'd want it to, nothing extra, but it feels so big because the height of the room gives it such volume. It's really so breathtaking. Anyone who comes into the house is just like, you just look up and you're like, I don't understand what I'm seeing. It's so magical and beautiful.
That's
How
really
are the acoustics? How are the acoustics? And when it rains or if there's a big storm, I'm curious. Is it loud?
I've never heard the rain really, but I'm not upstairs as much. You hear the rain? I don't think I've heard.
It just sounded nice, the rain. It sounded cozy. I will say, like, it's different when you have the height, when there's a big crowd in the room and you're a little bit older, you're like, I think I heard you. But it's not bad. It's just, it is different. And what Hillary's done well is she's put in a lot of soft goods and upholstery in the space. So there's, couches and chairs and benches, and that helps, and rugs, and that helps absorbs the sound so that it doesn't echo. But I mean, that's worth thinking about, but it's been very comfortable for us so far.
How are you guys marketing this? Like, when we not come across this show and John had gotten in touch with you guys, I wouldn't know about you. So how does someone come across you? I mean, it's not like I go down to the dealership and, it's not anything like that. So I'm just curious.
We have there's an online presence of social media. We partnered with Ryan Serhan, and he did a lot. Ryan Serhan was our marketer.
I don't know. I never heard of him.
Well, I guess that's why you haven't heard of us yet.
Yeah,
but he did a number of marketing videos for us and was selling this project for the first year that we opened.
And your first house was built when?
2020.
2020.
We were framing in the height of the pandemic.
Yeah. Summer 20, I think we delivered that first house. We started in fall 2020 and delivered it in summer 2021, sorry, excuse me.
At that time, did you have trouble, just labor, etc.? Just curious, it was a very precarious time.
We could do a whole nother episode.
Yeah. we could do a 4-hour seminar on the labor challenges of pandemic framing.
There's our dear friend.
There's our friend.
That was
And then
beautiful.
also, you know, upstate, there's a different speed at which people there work. It is a more relaxed environment, which is good and bad, I would say, right, Hel? Yeah. But that said, like the builder, the team that was put on Hillary's house has been nothing short of
Amazing.
yeah, they've really adopted her as a new resident, giving her restaurant advice and meeting, you know, deliveries at the house if she's needed, or it's really sort of this next level generosity that's really special.
Yeah, we're very excited for when, you know, all as each house is being built, getting to have a real community up there, because I mean, places are better when you have people there, and getting to meet new people is fun. It's like exciting. So we're excited for all the new people to move in.
Can you
And not
typically
just,
tell us about this house that we're looking at? Because it looked pretty big from the outside. I mean, how many bedrooms is it? How many square feet is it?
So this house is 3 bedrooms, and this one's about 1,800 square feet. This is the 52.
And the price, if we were to do that, let's just say I want that. How much would that cost?
Depends on where, depends on the lot, but I think we can do this for $1.2 million around there.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will say this video is nice at capturing some of the volumetrics of the space that the photography just can't get.
And how about if I want to license this and bring it to the Hamptons?
You are more than happy to. We would love that.
Good answer.
I mean, it occurs to me that some of those, that this design with all these windows is not really meant to be on quarter-acre lots next to the neighbor. It's meant to be in the Catskills, but it also, with all that glass, is meant to be perhaps on the waterfront.
Certainly.
I'd agree more.
So explain that to me about licensing. Let's just say I was in the Hamptons and I had a house, and you know, I bought a piece of land, I raised the house, and you know what, I want one of these on there. I just want your plans. I'm going to take it to my contractor. Like, how does that work? Is that what you mean by the licensing, or are you talking about licensing that concept to a contractor and then they solicit it?
No, you would come to us. We would license you, or you would come to, and you would license you a set of drawings. So you would get a full set of drawings, a full spec book, everything you need to know to build the home, from the framing to, you know, the doorknobs, right? So everything is in that package.
There's a full specifications package. I mean, I think the only few people you need to hire is a sort of geotechnical civil engineer just to understand ground conditions.
Correct.
And what would that compared to I can get that house delivered to me for 1.2, something like that. Let's just say I wanted the plans for that house because I wanted to build it wherever I want to build it. What's that cost me?
About $25,000.
Yeah, I mean, and here in Connecticut, we're looking for ADU ideas. I think that actually makes a whole lot of sense in the 4-acre zone here in New Canaan, Connecticut. So yeah, we need ADUs. I'm on planning and zoning, and every month somebody brings me another ADU to approve, and we're approving them as fast as we can because we know that there's no other housing opportunities around here. So I think that, you know, you ought to turn the marketing fire hose at Connecticut, because we need what you're doing, Drew, Josh.
Let's do it. We'll do it. Thank you for that feedback.
And I think just to go back to the costs, I mean, a pretty good rule of thumb to use is if you wanted to build a custom house, you know, blank page, 25% of your cost is generally going to go towards fees. So like your MEP engineer, your structural engineer, your geotechnical engineer, your architect, your interior designer, a sort of 25% allowance for all those fees on top of what your cost per square foot is going to be is a pretty good rule of thumb in terms of how you evaluate this. And I mean, I think the amazing thing about when Josh and Pele were starting to talk around this is just the kind of efficiency that we could build in by, designing it beautifully once and then allowing it to sort of multiply and grow exponentially.
I hate to put Scott Hobbs on the spot, but I will. But Scott's on the Affordable Housing Committee here and has built a couple hundred units of affordable housing. And when I've asked him, what's the cost of building a unit of housing around here, he's been telling me, oh, it's about $500,000. We really can't. And I said, well, what about, working on a modular system? And he says, well, as you said earlier in the program, we're not really getting a whole lot more economically efficient out of going with modular. We've tried it both ways. So maybe Scott could talk to us about, is this something we could adopt here in Fairfield County as a way? Because what I'm hearing is that these are efficiently made and can be brought in on a truck. Is there an opportunity for us?
Well, I mean, look, I think these are really well-designed houses. I think that an important part of architecture is place. And just as you had pointed out, if you're on 3 acres in the Hudson Valley, that's different than being on a 1/4 acre or being 50 yards away from a main house. And, the window treatments become a bigger issue. If you're on the beach, your waterfront elevation is going to get a lot of solar gain. I mean, an unbelievable amount of solar gain. So, I mean, there's some stuff that has to be worked out. I mean, I like the design. I think they work great. And certainly under like the high-end custom, people want something that is different in their own. And there's a price to be paid for that. But if you're able to go ahead and save on that engineering, save on that design side, have gone ahead and experimented with things and found out what works, I mean, how many houses are there in the United States? I mean, 200 million. And so if you happen to have one that's the same as 250 other of the houses, that's not a bad thing. And by the way, it tends to work because you're not building a prototype. So it's how's the form and the function? What are you using it for? Having those options to go ahead and do some more customization for clients for the ADUs. Because I mean, in some places the ADU has to kind of match the house. Other places the ADU can be a totally different level and style and grade. The toughest part under any of these things is land. And obviously, I mean, you're not getting 3 acres in the Hamptons for 1.5 million, nevertheless something on it. I mean, it's not happening.
Where do you see the market for these? Because you work the Hamptons, you work upstate Connecticut, you work down here in Fairfield County, you work in New Jersey. Do you see the opportunity for NevelHaus as in the ADU market, the high-end ADU market, and in any of those markets?
I'm sure they could do a product that would hit that mark well. I mean, I like the website. I like how you've designed a couple different options. Having those available and out there, and perhaps modifying some of the finishes to be, are you looking to have your in-laws there who are downsizing from their house, or are you looking to go ahead and rent it out to a teacher at an affordable rate? And those are kind of 2 different type clienteles, and you want to have those options to hit those different marks.
Yeah, I mean, anything that here, like the NevelHaus is very broadly a platform, and I think it can evolve to many different things, so that it can have different kinds of cladding. We've talked about slate shingles in lieu of the corrugated metal. There's so many different ways to approach it. But I would say, just to go back to your question about modular, it's the thing we've learned about modular is that you start to really restrict your ability economically to have a wide pool of bidders. It becomes highly specialized. And a lot of times that cost savings that you might imagine by like not being affected by, weather because you're building inside of a giant, factory, a lot of those cost efficiencies actually get eaten up by, the other aspects of you've got a much more limited pool of resources to bid it out to. So, I mean, there's always the converse argument for every single thing you try. Because
What are
we've gone down a
gasoline
lot of
prices?
those routes to try to like diversify, and it's a challenge. I mean, it's a real genuine challenge.
So what are some of the design? What are some of the on-trend design decisions you made with this? We already talked about the materials. People want these natural woods, right? You've talked about the amount of light. You've talked about the fancy HVAC system. You called it an advanced split system, but Roberto and I still don't know what that is. A VHF? What is that?
VRF. It's a
A
VRF.
a VRF system. So talk to us about some of the design decisions that are on trend. Metal roof?
Well,
Hillary,
maybe
do you want to address that? I mean, we try not to think about trends. I mean, we're kind of trend avoidant. We just try to.
That's a Miriam Hillary question.
I mean, I think what appealed to us about it is that it does avoid trends, because I think if you went all modern with your interiors and that with your furnishings and that interior, it might feel like more of a time capsule. But I think what we love about that is because once you can juxtapose different time periods, it is at once trend forward and timeless. So I think being able to put in, like, we collected antiques from England and put them into this home. And we have some mid-century modern brutalist pieces that are in this home. And we have really from all time periods, furnishings and art, so that it is forward moving, but it is not stuck in a trend. And I think that's kind of a nice way. Josh was saying not everyone's for modern farmhouse, and I think that's the scary thing for those of us in the industry of modern farmhouse, is it feels very much time encapsulated. And I think that this house, because it harkens to a barn, and because it is a familiar shape, your eye is comfortable there, and then you can create an interior that can speak to your personality. And if you're a very trend-oriented person, that's great. Hillary and I tend not to be. This is an example of Hillary's home that is a mix of all different periods. We have
that countertop is an upgrade.
Yeah. And I gotta say, this is the first time I'm seeing this, and you guys, oh my gosh, I have tears. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So well
then
done.
Another structure out the window. What's that? That's the garage?
Studio garage. Yeah.
Yeah, with the room above. So there is another living space over there.
And I think that's like one of the things that was interesting about this house was adding that outbuilding. For some people, that might be a studio, an art studio, an office. For Hillary and her family, they put in another bedroom, and then we put a desk there because her husband does work from home a lot. It gives him an area to go to where his voice doesn't carry, that's a little quieter. But really, when we built the apartment, I stole it and I call it the cottage. And I tell everyone my best friend built me a cottage. What did your best friend do for you? So we've adopted it. I'm Canadian, and in Canada, everyone has a cottage, and that's
I
the word
knew you
for
were
it.
Canadian because you said about. I knew it.
Well, yeah, we loved the way that we love that space. It really feels generous when you're in it. It's an exciting.
It's really beautiful.
It is beautiful.
This looks exceptional, you guys. So beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I shared everybody want your home when they come to look at the homes.
Well, Josh would love me to show everybody.
That's a tough.
And I'm happy to do it if they're going to hire us to do it.
Josh, it's a no-brainer.
We're always pushing.
This
And
home is
everyone who's seen her home has raved about it.
It is beautiful. It's stunning.
So there's John, I sent you a few more emails. Just click on.
So
continue.
this is a TV that you're seeing that looks like art. That's how we manage TV watching in the space. We did want the opportunity for TV. This is a frame TV, so it reads like art most of the time, but it is a TV for the family when we want it. That's a large sectional. And then that little fire firebox
burning,
there.
so-
It is like hours of endless entertainment. So this is an example of this cabin feel that we created. This is the basement bathroom. And Hillary brought that cladding from upstairs, downstairs, and we used that in the bathroom. And I think this is an example of that, like, cabin meets barn aesthetic that, and then there's vintage, that's a leather wrap mirror. We really tried to like really enjoy materiality there and play with like really strong organic surfaces. That's that main room from the other angle. We put in a large sectional there. There is typically like at minimum 6 people up to 14 people on the regular there. So it really, this house has to be stretchy, and it has proven to be. So it's been great for us. I think for a lot of people, like the Brooklyn crowd is thinking more their immediate family. And this is the powder room, which is
we did an integrated marble sink, wallpaper, fun lighting.
So that's an upgrade.
Great.
Major.
I know the recording's done, but my gosh, you guys, this is just so exquisite. So well done.
Thank you.
I didn't get to see any of these until now.
Okay, Drew. When you come over, let me know, okay?
Okay.
You can get a tour.
I mean, you know, this is the kind of stuff we get to do when we're, you know, doing someone's own personal home. But I think for, you know, when we were trying to market this to a wider group, it's hard because you want to never offend too many people. And
and it's beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
the design is beautiful.
But my gosh, really exquisitely done.
Maybe we should offend a couple people. I'm just saying.
We're like Equinox. We're not for everyone.
Just push them to think differently.
Why is there no fireplace instead of a wooden burn?
Fireplaces are just extremely expensive to build. I mean, a beautiful fireplace is probably $250,000, if not $500,000. It would be a third of the budget before you even burn a piece of wood inside.
Unless it was gas. And I think what's so fun about this is it is wood burning.
Yeah.
When you go up that many feet, that's masonry. So that changes the labor involvement as well, and who's doing the work. And I think that that's something you guys were really cognizant of, is who's doing the work. And I think it has, you know, what's so nice about this is it's very clean. It burns really clean. Like we throw the wood in, close the door, and there's no
Never
mess.
been smoke in the house, which I was really nervous about this wood burning fire stove.
Yes, I
And
remember that. You wanted us to
You
eliminate
remember, I did not want it. And everyone, you're like, we gotta just do it. Brian's like, just do it. And I love it. Like, I don't like
Did I like beat you up about that?
Well, I think another reason why we did wood burning a stove is because when we designed this, we wanted, again, there was an idea that we would replicate this over and over again. So a lot of this was, we wanted to look and feel like a custom home, but we wanted to take off products that were on the shelf and put them together in a custom way, right? And so if we're going to be building them quickly and efficiently, they have to custom build a hearth every single time. Complicates that. So,
and as beautiful as fireplaces are, they're incredibly inefficient, right? It's basically an open gaping hole to the sky when your damper's not closed. And a wood burning fireplace is one of the most efficient ways to like heat a space, believe it or not.
So cozy.
Yeah.
We love it.
We love it. Oh, we're so happy with it.
She's like she's a
I'm
convert.
converted. Yeah.
And it becomes this like beautiful meditation, like, right? Like putting the wood in and starting the fire.
I don't really do
I
that.
like to do that.
It's a serene, you know,
fire girl.
meditative moment. That's just
Yeah, I
lovely.
love it. Yeah.
Well, I think I'd like to thank our guests, Josh Gelb of JSR Development, Drew Stuart from INC Architecture, and Mimi and Hill, Miriam Verga, and Hillary Kaplan. I want to thank also, I'm going to hit share screen. I want to do a couple more thank yous. I'd like to thank Grace Farms, our sponsor. They know a thing or two about beautiful modern glass architecture. I hope you'll all come up if you're in the New Canaan area and visit their 80-acre farm where sustainability, modern materials, all very important to them, and lots of glass. Come visit, have tea with Frank in the tea house. And see if we have a picture. Yep. Summer kickoff event. We've got a special going on tea right now, Grace Farm Teas. I want to thank Lisa Ben Isby for putting this show together. Thank you, Lisa. You did another phenomenal job. Lisa is a PR and marketing powerhouse for high-end design brands. And once again, you did not disappoint putting today's show together for us. I want to thank the folks over at NevelHaus. I mean, what a phenomenal concept, high design. I definitely think that this is something that the market needs. And frankly, I don't know what you need in the Catskills, but we need a few more of these as accessory dwellings here in New Canaan. And finally, I just want to tell you that you can find all 138 of our episodes on both YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And next week, we've got housing for the elderly. We're going to talk about what to do when we get older, what we're going to do with our parents when they get older, what our kids are going to do about us when we get older. So I don't know if that's as much fun as talking about high concept design, but we're diving in next week. So thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
John. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you so much.
Really
This has been
appreciate it.
great. And thank you, Roberto.
Of course, Skipper.
See you next
See
week.
you.
And
Thank you.
thanks, Scott Hobbs.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
Wow.